We'll see. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another episode of The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with JK47, and Big Easy. We got some more baseball talk for you this week. We're going to focus on the New York Yankees. I think the only thing anybody really needs to know is A-Rod will hit 30 home runs again in your face.
Calling it again, 30 again. We'll have to see about that. But look, they made no signings so far this offseason, but they did make a couple trades.
Because they got A-Rod, man. What do they need to sign?
Well,
who do you need to add when you have the best player in the history of the game?
Wow, now that's taken a little bit too far, I'd have to say. A-Rod, he definitely got caught cheating using steroids, and there's reports he actually used steroids this past season. I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll get into A-Rod here in a minute. These trades, they traded for Starlin Castro, obviously a big-time young player for the Chicago Cubs for many years, but he really never put it together like he was really supposed to. But coming over to the New York Yankees, he has a new shot here. They gave up reliever Adam Warren for him. Warren's a pretty good reliever, but obviously you'd have to think the Yankees won this deal if they can get Castro playing the way that everybody believed he was supposed to play for what? It seems like 5 years, 6, 7 years now that Starlin Castro was supposed to be a premier elite player in the game.
Is he that bad?
No, he's not that bad. He's not great defensively. They're going to move him over to second base, so that should help. Moving from shortstop to second base. Second's a little easier for a player. But his bat never really has come around either. And there's times where it just doesn't seem like he's into the game. They need he needs to turn it around here with the New York Yankees. And this is a great ballpark for him to play. Obviously, the easiest park to hit in. But another trade, they brought in a young guy from Minnesota, Aaron Hicks, an outfielder. This guy, he wasn't a top prospect, but he was a top 100 prospect for him. He kind of struck out too much, didn't take enough walks. He really didn't come around how they hoped because he had a big spring. I think it was 2 years ago. He had a big spring, had a 3 home run game, I remember. Everybody was saying this guy was going to have a breakout year, and he never really put it together for Minnesota. But the Yankees going to bring him in, and just like Castro, hopefully he can turn it around here in New York. But they gave up catcher John Ryan Murphy for him, so really didn't give up much for him either. And the biggest deal for the Yankees this offseason, they traded for Aroldis Chapman. Now, they did give up some prospects for him, especially the first guy here, Eric Jagiello. I really don't think they gave up too much. They also gave up Tony Rendell, Rookie Davis, Caleb Cotham. Jagiello, he's a good prospect, but there's a good chance that he really turns out to be nothing in the major leagues as well. So I really think the Yankees won this deal in getting Chapman. And obviously they're getting something that can perform right now for him, while all these prospects are going to take a few years.
Yeah,
So
it depends. He's sort of like a transition pending right now.
Who?
Chapman, if he ends up getting in trouble too.
Yeah, that's true. But, even if he does, he'll be suspended. But when he comes back, look, even if he's out for, let's say he gets suspended for 50 games, well, you still got Andrew Miller and Dellin Betances in the back end of the bullpen, and that's 2 great relievers. But with Chapman, this is probably one of the best, if not the best, back end of the bullpen in the major leagues. All 3 of these guys have elite stuff. Now, Betances, he had a little bit of trouble last season. He might walk a little bit too many people, but he almost strikes out 2 people per inning. These 3 guys right here can dominate at the end of games. 7th, 8th, 9th inning should be shut down for the Yankees this season.
Well, how nice is that whenever your starters usually only have to go 6 innings in a ball game?
Yeah, especially
7.
when you got names like Tanaka, Pineda, Sabathia, all these guys.
Sabathia, I thought Sabathia was done.
Well, no, he's going to be at the back end of their bullpen probably to begin the season here.
I read an article that said it's the healthiest he's been in 4 years.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Not
there's
that
a
he's going
chance
to be the dominant guy, but he's
he
healthy
just doesn't
enough
have
to contribute to a rotation.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the big arm like he used to, but he could still contribute as a number 4, number 5 guy, I think.
What do you think, John?
Oh, the guy I'm looking at is Luis Severino right now. He came on last season,
Yes.
performed admirably.
See, I think they need him to pitch like a number 2 guy because you can't really trust Pineda to stay healthy. He really hasn't stayed healthy in, 4 years now? But he did come out hot last season. Remember how good he was to begin the season? Then he sort of trailed off a little bit. But I like Pineda as a number 3, more likely. Tanaka, number 1, if he can stay healthy. Eovaldi, I think he's a back-end guy just like Sabathia. But if Severino can jump up and be that number 3 guy at least this season, maybe number 2, I think the rotation's all right if it can stay healthy.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to compete this year. I mean, even last year, you got surprise seasons from Carlos Beltran. Like, I like the 19 home runs, 67 RBIs you got out of him.
Yeah, actually, Beltran, Mark Teixeira, A-Rod, and Brian McCann all had bounce-back seasons last year, and that was a big reason why the Yankees did make it into that wild card game. In fact, Carlos Beltran led this team in batting average, I believe. But, I mean, this isn't a team that hits for a high average. This is a home run hitting team. There's nobody. I mean, Jacoby Ellsbury can for you, but he was hurt last season. He actually had a very bad season in terms of what Jacoby Ellsbury
Well, he was excellent before he went on the DL, actually. What
did he end up doing last season? It wasn't much, man, I'm telling you.
No, it was a 257 average, 7 home runs, 33 RBI.
Yeah. What are you playing, like 100 games?
Still 21 bases still, but Ellsbury had a really nice start to the season last year, and then going on, because remember, the Yankees got really hot for a while there at the beginning of the year. That whole team was on fire. But, I mean, Ellsbury especially, and then once he went on the DL, it kind of deflated them a little bit in the middle of the season. Not to mention he just never seemed to recover.
And let's not forget, a thing that hurt them in the playoffs was losing Mark Teixeira as well. But they did have that Greg Bird come on and play pretty well. This was one of their prospect first baseman. He played pretty well in his debut season, but he actually got hurt and he is done for the season. So he's going to miss all of 2016. So they got to kind of count on Teixeira to
stay healthy.
But, I mean, they do have Dustin Ackley, a guy that can move around the field. He's never been that great of a player, but he does have some upside. He never really lived up to what he was supposed to be, but he could play a little bit of first base. He could play second base. He could play in the outfield as well. So, I mean, if Teixeira went down, they'd definitely have to try to maybe move McCann to first base and one of their prospects, Gary Sanchez, see if he can fill in at the catcher role. This is a guy that hit pretty well last season and looks like he could be an elite hitting catcher at least. But you look around here, in the outfield, there's Brett Gardner in left, Jacoby Ellsbury in center, and Carlos Beltran in right. I think this is Beltran's last year, correct? He said he was going to retire after this season. And like I said, they brought in Aaron Hicks. They also had that young prospect that came out last season, Mason Williams. He showed a little bit of potential. This guy's probably more of a fourth outfielder, but along with Aaron Hicks and Dustin Ackley, they at least have some depth out there if Jacoby Ellsbury can't stay healthy again, if Beltran can't stay healthy. So, I mean, it's not an elite outfield by any means, but they need Jacoby Ellsbury to obviously have a better season and hope Beltran can stay healthy and contribute like he did last year.
Well, I could imagine they'll be rotating him in and out of the DH position.
Who, Beltran?
Yeah, trying to keep his bat in the lineup.
Play Hicks and Ackley a little bit. And let's not forget, they also have their top fielding prospect, Aaron Judge. He's an outfielder. This is a guy we did a prospect check on last season. He is actually 6'7", 275 pounds. This guy plays in the outfield. Being that tall, it's kind of tough because you're going to strike out a lot, obviously, and he does strike out a little bit too much. But he does have big-time power, obviously, when you're that big. You're going to have some type of power. But last year in AAA, he only hit 224 with a 308 on base, but he did have 8 home runs and 228 at-bats. He really needs to improve in AAA before they call him up, but he is supposed to be Beltran's replacement here in the near future.
Maybe as soon as this year.
They also got another prospect outfielder, Ben Gamel. He is actually related to Matt Gamel. You remember that, dude?
Nope.
This guy actually, in AAA last year, he killed it. 300 batting average with a 358 on base, 28 doubles, 14 triples, 10 home runs, 13 stolen bases. He had 46 walks, which wasn't great, but 108 Ks isn't bad in 500 at bat. So this guy looks like a pretty decent prospect, but they also believe he's more of a fourth outfielder as well. Then in the infield, you got Chase Headley at third base, still not a guy I'm huge on, but he always has his ups and downs, I guess I want to say. He's not a great player by any means, but he does have a little bit of power in him. At shortstop, you have a guy that plays pretty good shortstop, Didi Gregorius. He's not that great of a hitter. He was actually one of their better hitters last season in terms of average, but really you're not going to expect too much out of him. Maybe a few home runs. What do you have, 9 last season? That's not terrible out of a shortstop.
Well, I mean, he plays good. His offense actually really wasn't that bad last year. I mean, considering, they expected a lot less from him.
Yeah, they did expect less from him.
So,
if you look, when he played for the Diamondbacks, though, there was a point when they actually thought this guy could hit pretty well, but they thought he could be closer to a 300 hitter at one point, but it never really worked out that way. But still, I think Gregorius is a pretty good shortstop. And Castro moving over to second base this season, they got Dustin Ackley backing him up. We'll have to see what happens out of Castro, see if he can turn his career around here with the New York Yankees.
It's definitely going to be an interesting lineup, I'll tell you that much.
And at first base, like we mentioned before, Mark Teixeira, he has to stay healthy for him because Greg Bird, their prospect first baseman, already done for the season. And Brian McCann, what are you going to see out of him this season? Are you going to see what we seen last year or what we seen a couple prior years to that when we thought he was actually falling off?
Well, I mean, you're going to see at least 20 home runs from him.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of home runs out of most of these players here. I think Jacoby Ellsbury is going to give him more power. Beltran, he's not going to give huge power. He'll give you some home runs. But Teixeira and A-Rod, those two right there should give you some good power if they can stay healthy. I mean, you got to expect McCann, A-Rod, Teixeira, and Beltran to at least miss a little bit of time this season. Even maybe Ellsbury. That's the questions here with New York. I mean, they're a little bit older of a team, so you can't expect them to stay too healthy during the course of the season. And that's another thing why they made the playoffs last year. They were able to stay healthy with all these guys.
So, I mean, you're looking at the two factors here being injury, and I mean, the rotation actually is what I want to see. All that comes together.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions in the rotation, and obviously, we were talking health factor. Tanaka, Pineda, Sabathia, all health questions. And Eovaldi, he's not a guy that really has turned into what we hoped. He was supposed to be more of a number 3, maybe even as high as a number 2 at one point, but he looks like a number 4 or 5.
He closed out the year strong last year.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what he did towards the end of the season, but this guy hasn't been very good over the past few seasons in terms of his final numbers, man.
Well, I'm not saying he's an ace.
Couple other prospects. If Starlin Castro didn't work out, they have that Robert Refsnyder. They might want to think about dealing this guy as well. This is a guy that has a 290 average with a 380 on base in his minor league career over 1,594 bats. So this is a guy that can get on base. He has a little bit of speed, a little bit of pop. I really like Refsnyder, but now he's sort of in no man's land. He has nowhere to play right now unless they try to move him over to third base. If Chase Headley doesn't work out, maybe.
Or, just put Headley on first base and...
Yeah, but you also got to figure they want to get this Gary Sanchez involved, too. This is one of their top prospects as well. He hit 274 with a 330 on base, had 18 jacks. He doesn't take many walks, just 29 walks compared to 78 Ks last year. But in AAA, he hit 295 with a 349 on base, 6 home runs and 132 at-bats. He only had 2 major league at-bats last season, but they expect him to be more involved this year, and I think they're going to want to play him a good bit. So I think if something happened to Teixeira, McCann would be the guy to go to first base. Another prospect here, a starting pitcher, Kel Kaushow. He's 23 years old, 6'5", 250 pounds. Last season, between 3 levels, he actually finished in Double-A. He pitched 114 innings, a 2.45 ERA, 97 Ks compared to just 28 walks. He has excellent control and allowed just 85 hits. So this guy looks like a pretty good prospect. They don't expect him to be a top-end guy, but he does throw heat. He has hit 100 on the gun. So there's an option for you. They also have Ivan Nova there still in case something happens to maybe CC Sabathia. I mean, Nova, he's not a great pitcher by any means or anything, but, I mean, who knows what you're going to get out of Sabathia. If he gets hurt, I mean, Nova can pitch to the level Sabathia has pitched over the past couple of years at least. Anything else about the New York Yankees?
Yeah, for the record, they're the team I hate the most out of all 4 professional sports. I hate them worse than the Ravens. Anybody.
You hate them worse than Duke?
I hate them worse than Duke. Duke's 2. I hate the New York Yankees with a passion. They just, they have the money, so they just buy whoever they want. They do whatever they want. You know what I mean? I can't stand it.
Yeah, they made over $500 million in 2014. I know 2015 numbers.
They're worth so much money. They just go out and buy whoever they want. And you know what? I hate on it because it's what I would want to do. I would do the same thing though. If I was Ryan Steinbrenner, I'd be spending $500 million. I'd have dudes on third, first, DHs lined up. I mean, I'd be doing it all. I mean, I'd be doing the same thing if it was me, but it's not me, and I hate them.
You know what? They were doing that for a while, though, man, and it sort of got them in trouble. They ended up having all these old players on their bench.
Well, that's what it looks like to me right now, though, to be honest. These dudes that you were talking about here, all these guys.
Yeah, but I mean,
look
some of
like
these
bums
guys,
to me.
they're
look
trying
like
to get a
bums
little
to me.
bit younger guys involved
I don't
nowadays.
see anybody.
They
I don't see anybody young here.
No,
in this
but
lineup.
look, they have a minor league system now. At one point, they were just giving away their guys.
Okay.
Give me
Right.
professionals. Give me
Believe
professionals.
it.
Now they're sort of holding on to their prospects a little bit more.
Okay.
Look, Luis Severino.
Yeah.
This guy needs to step up and be one of the best pitchers in his rotation, like 47 was saying. So they're trying to use prospects a little bit more nowadays.
How many JK? How many world championships? How many world championships do the New York Yankees have?
20-some.
27.
I would
just say 28.
I'd say 27. He says 28. It's close, but whatever. That number
27.
That number is outrageous to me. And another for the record, it said it.
Yeah,
but I love Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter was the truth. One of the best baseball players of all time.
Yeah, I like Bernie Williams.
And that's all. I don't care.
I like
nobody
Bernie
else.
Williams. Bernie Williams is a homegrown guy.
It would
like
be
Gary
Jeter.
Sheffield.
It would be Jeter.
I do like. Well,
who's the other dude?
Jeter's like my favorite babe.
Jorge
They're closer.
Posada.
No, they're closer.
Oh, Mariano Rivera.
Rivera. Yeah, it'd be Jeter Rivera for me if he would say who are your Yankee fans, but I hate them anyway.
I like them both.
Except for Jeter.
What about that first baseman they had back in the day? Paul something was his name?
O'Neill?
Yeah.
And Paul O'Neill's a good ball player too.
Ain't he their hitting coach or something? He coaches. I thought he was.
I think he
Andy
was
Pettit,
coaching.
he was a good Yankee.
Yeah, but he was on steroids too.
Sada came up through their system.
But I just
too.
wanted to say that.
Anyways.
That's my 2016 New York Yankee preview. They look like bums to me on paper.
Okay, well, listen, there's people that agree with you. I was reading some articles. A lot of people believe this team may finish in 4th or 5th place this season.
I can see it happening easily.
I mean, it depends on the health. If A-Rod and Teixeira can stay healthy, and Beltran can stay healthy and can contribute, and McCann can give you what he gave you last season, this pitching staff stays healthy. I mean, questions. But if it happens, I think they can do what they did last year.
They better
especially
go
with the
like-
back end of that bullpen.
They better go like 50 and 35 to start the season.
So what
Or else
place?
they're going to be in trouble.
What place are you saying?
Third?
3rd place?
Yeah.
47.
I'm going to go with 3rd place. Even though, I mean, winning the division wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
If some things come together for this team.
They
I
had
mean,
the chance
they're
last
still a
year.
team of professionals.
Right.
You know, Severino obviously is going to make that rotation that much better, especially if he continues with what he did at the end of last season. I love the back end of this bullpen. I think it's better than Kansas City's.
Well, the back end,
Okay,
yes.
right now, absolutely.
maybe not the
Now.
entire bullpen, but the back end of the bullpen, I'd have to agree. Jim, what are you saying?
Numero uno.
1st place. I'm going to agree and say 3rd place with you guys. I think Toronto's going to win the division.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be between Boston and New York for a wild card spot, actually. And I'm going to give it to Boston. I like some of their guys. Mookie Betts, he's one of my favorite players. So I'm going to give it to Boston.
I think he crashed a golf cart into a lake the other day.
But a couple guys that the Yankees lost that I forgot to mention real quick. They lost outfielder Chris Young. He was pretty much a 4th
He was getting
outfielder.
old.
Peace.
Yeah, he's getting old. Boston actually went out and signed him. So we'll have to see what he does out there because Boston has some questions in their outfield as well.
Just swap players. That's all they do. Go from 200 to 300 million.
Now, like we were saying, Starlin Castro is playing second base for him this year. They actually got rid of Steven Drew. That's a guy, he has power, but he also hits like 200 if you're lucky.
Peace. Where'd he go?
He went to, where'd he go,
Anywhere
the
yet?
Nationals?
Oh.
I think he's roommates with Pedro Alvarez right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stephen Drew, it almost sounds familiar. I almost thought they were free. He was friends with Pedro.
He was a nice-looking prospect in Arizona, and he had a big year out there.
I wanted to mention this earlier, and I'm glad you mentioned Pedro, because when I look at this, Teixeira, Who are these bums? McCann,
Dustin Ackley. He's a
Dustin
pretty
Ackley.
solid player.
That looks to me like they can slide Pedro Alvarez in there, to be honest.
Teixeira is a beast, man.
Teixeira.
Well, at least he was last year. He was one of the elite players in the game for
All right, so
a while,
how
and then
old's-
he really
how
fell
old is
off
he?
when they.
32.
Oh, he
So
might be even older than that.
bring Pedro in.
But let's not forget me, and they also have that prospect Greg Bird as well. Mark Teixeira is 35 years old, so he's old. Yeah,
Mark Teixeira is a skeleton waiting to crumble.
What do you have?
Oh, straight up.
Listen, he
I'm
hit over
telling you.
30 home runs last year, though. And
Okay.
it was really a bounce back year for him because there for a while when they moved, the major leagues turned into that play a shift type thing. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
play a shift every play, and that really took down Teixeira's batting average
What I'd like to know is,
drastically over the years. But he bounced back last year.
did he play first base all the time and hit home runs, or was he hitting home runs as a DH at all? I mean, he didn't DH really a lot, did he?
Teixeira, no, he's always been pretty much a first
He's a
baseman.
fielder. Okay. All right.
He's a good for. He actually plays solid defense.
Anything else?
No, so we're all saying third place besides Jim. He's going to say the Yankees win the division.
Which is that's not out of the question either. Is when you spend that much money.
I mean, really,
when you
in that
spend much
division,
money-
I think Tampa can win that division too, and I think Baltimore, if things go right, they could win it too. Tampa's rotation looks sick to me, man. But that's it.
Nothing else? Fans, any comments, questions, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread and keep coming back to YouTube and click and subscribe. Maybe one day we'll hit a home run with these baseball segments.